His breath was hot against my skin as he pinned me against the kitchen counter, his hands sliding boldly under the hem of my short robe. I gasped, my mind screaming for me to stop, but my body betraying every innocent thought I ever had. His tongue brushed the side of my neck as his fingers spread my legs wider, lifting me effortlessly onto the cold marble counter. I should have screamed, I should have pushed him away, but instead, I parted my thighs and wrapped them around his waist, inviting him deeper into my world of betrayal. That was the moment everything changed. That was the moment I knew there was no going back. Before I continue, I just want to say a huge thank you to all my amazing subscribers. You are truly the heart of this channel, and if you are new here, have been watching without subscribing, what are you waiting for? I cannot wait for you to hit that subscribe button because it is the fuel that powers this channel to keep bringing you raw, real stories. My name is Ashley, and I am a 35-year-old woman living what most people would call the American dream: a loving husband, a beautiful home in a peaceful suburban neighborhood just outside Dallas, Texas, and a life that from the outside seemed perfect. My husband, Brian, is a tall, handsome man with a good heart and a strong work ethic. He is a software engineer who often travels for work. I trusted him, and he trusted me. We had been married for 10 years. Then there was Zach, Brian's best friend. Since college, Zach was charming, cocky, with a bad boy grin that made women weak in the knees. He had always been around. He was like family. I never thought of him as anything more than a friend until that night Brian had a sudden work trip. He packed his suitcase with a sigh, kissing me on the forehead before leaving for a conference in California. Zach had come over that evening to keep me company like he always did when Brian was away. We ordered pizza, cracked open some beers, and sat on the couch watching a dumb action movie. His jokes were inappropriate, both harmless or so. I thought his eyes lingered longer than usual. His laughter was deeper, throatier, and I noticed him glancing at my bare legs tucked under a short robe. Brian is lucky, Zach said, his voice low, almost a growl. If you were mine, I would never leave you alone for a second. I laughed it off, taking another sip of beer to mask the sudden heat rushing to my cheeks. It was innocent, I thought, to be. But when I stood up to grab another drink, Zach followed me into the kitchen, close to close. I opened the fridge, feeling his presence behind me, heavy and magnetic. The air grew thick with something unspoken. I bent slightly to reach a beer, and that was when it happened. His hand gripped my waist, firm and commanding. I froze, my heart pounded so loud I could hear it in my ear. Turned to face him, ready to protest, but the words died on my lips. His mouth found mine for I could speak. His kiss was rough, demanding. His hands explored places no one but my husband had ever touched. For a second I pushed against him. Weakly I told myself to stop, to slap him, to scream, but when his hand found the warmth between my legs and pressed against the thin fabric of my panties, I moaned softly into his mouth, and then I opened myself to him. He lifted me onto the counter effortlessly, spreading my legs wider. His hands pushed the robe aside, bearing me to him completely. Was trembling, not from fear but from a need that shocked and disgusted me all at once. He dropped to his knees between my thighs, worshipping me with his mouth in a way Brian never had. My hands gripped the counter edges, my head thrown back as he devoured every inch of me. I surrendered, gasped, crying out his name like a woman possessed. When he finally stood and pulled me into his arms, pressing himself against me, I realized that I had crossed a line that could never be erased. Later, I lay in bed, the sheets tangled around my naked body. Zach scent still clinging to my skin, guilt gnawed at my chest, making it hard to breathe. I stared at the ceiling, numb and broken. Zach was downstairs, asleep on the couch like nothing had happened, but for me, everything had changed. My life, my soul shattered. I closed my eyes, trying to imagine how I would face Brian when he returned. He had no idea that this was only the beginning of a nightmare. I would never wake up from the morning after. Felt like waking from a nightmare soaked in sweat and shame. I rolled over in bed, half hoping thought it had all been a fever dream, a sick fantasy my mind had conjured, but the soreness between my thighs and the crumpled robe on the floor told the truth. With brutal clarity, I dragged myself of bed, avoiding the mirror, unable to face the reflection of the woman who had betrayed her vows in the most despicable way. Downstairs, Zach was in the kitchen making coffee, shirtless, his tattoos on full display. His cocky smile faded slightly when he saw my face. Morning, beautiful, he said softly, as if what happened between us was something natural, something normal. I could not even respond. You snatched my mug from the cabinet with trembling hands and poured myself a black coffee, needing bitterness to anchor me to reality. We sat at the table in heavy silence, the only sounds were the ticking clock and the clink of spoons against porcelain. Zach leaned back, studying me with those piercing blue eyes. You are thinking too much, he said, a smirk tugging at the corner of his mouth. It happened, you cannot take it back, might as well enjoy it. I stared at him, horror and danger twisting in my gut. Was he serious? Enjoy it. I wanted to scream at him to slap that smug grin off his face. Instead, I stood up abruptly. You need to leave, I said, my voice cold and sharp like broken glass. Zach shrugged, lazily grabbed his jacket, and sauntered out the door as if he had not just ripped my life apart. I locked the door behind him, and sank to the floor, burying my face in my hands. Tears poured from my eyes, hot and relentless. How could I ever face Brian again? Brian returned him 2 days later, his suitcase Thursdaying against the hardwood floor as he walked in with a tired smile. He looked the same kind, warm, unsuspecting. He wrapped his arms around me tightly, breathing me. Eenie, missed you so much, he whispered into my hair. I clung to him, my heart breaking into 1,000 jagged pieces. I wanted to confess everything right there, beg for his forgiveness, but the words died in my throat, choked by fear. Instead, I kissed him softly at first, then malignantly, needing to erase Zach's touch from my skin. I pulled Brian to the couch and made love to him, desperate to reconnect, to wash away my sins, but no matter how hard I tried, I could not shake the ghost of Zach's hands on my body, the memory of his mouth between my thighs afterwards. Brian held me close, his fingers tracing lazy patterns on my back. You are so tense, baby, he murmured. Is everything all right? I forced a smile. Just missed you, I whispered. The lie tasted like poison. Over the next few weeks, Zach kept coming around. At first, he acted normal, joking with Brian, lying with me, but when Brian's back was turned, Zach would find ways to touch me, a hand-brushing game, mine fingers trailing along my lower back, a whispered innuendo in my ear. I tried to avoid him. I tried to stay busy, locking myself in the bedroom, taking long showers, pretending to be-sleep, but Zach was relentless. One evening when Brian was upstairs taking a shower, Zach cornered him in the laundry room. You cannot pretend it did not happen, he said, stepping closer, his breath against my face. You wanted it, you still want it. I shook my head fiercely. You are wrong. It was a mistake. It will never happen again. He laughed low and dark. Oh, it will, he said, or maybe Brian would like to see this. He pulled out his phone and showed me a video of us on the kitchen counter. My legs spread wide, my head thrown back in pleasure, his mouth buried between my thighs. I felt blood drain from my face, my knees buckled, and I had to grip the washing machine to keep from collapsing. You recorded it, I whispered, my voice shaking. Zach shrugged. He said smugly. I knew you would get cold feet. I stared at him, horror washing over me in violent wavesh, tucked the phone back into his pocket, and leaned in close, his lips brushing my ear. If you do not want Brian to find out, you will play nice, he whispered. Very, very nice. And then her was gone, leaving me trembling and gasping for air. That night, I lay awake beside Brian, my heart hammering against my ribs. Every time he stirred in his sleep, I flinched, terrified that he could feel the guilt radiating off of me. I was trapped. Zach had me right where he wanted me, and deep down in the darkest corners of my broken soul, a small sick part of me did not just fear the next time, it craved it. The next few weeks became a slow, brutal descent into hell. Zach had full control off me, and he knew it. It started with secret touches, hidden gropes, when Brian was not looking. Then came the whispered orders, the late-night texts summoning me outside while my husband slept upstairs. I hated myself more with every passing encounter, but I obeyed. I had no choice. Each time Zach touched me, it felt like I was peeling away another piece of my soul, another shard of the woman Brian had married. I told myself it was for survival. I told myself it was to protect me marriage, but there was another truth, a darker one that I could not deny. Somewhere deep inside I began to crave the danger. I began to crave Zach. One Friday night, everything came crashing down. Brian was hosting a small gathering for a few friends and neighbors. Our house was buzzing with music, laughter, the clinking of wine glasses. I wore a simple black dress, short but modest still. I could feel Zach's eyes devouring me across the room. Every time I caught his gaze, my stomach twisted into painful knots. As the evening wore on, Zach grew bolder. He brushed against me in section, his hand lingering on my hip far